Let's talk about the strategy of field placement. A normal field is one that doesn't require any adjustment to the results that come from the bowlers and the batters' cards. So you would put those two together, get the result from the chart book, and then from there you would be able to get the result as normal. You can then choose to have different field settings, some of them on the attacking side and some of them on the defensive side. So we have these two cards here, and they're fairly easy once you get going with them. So if we look at the attacking card, we can see that this card is more for the fielding team or the bowling team wanting to take more wickets. They bring the fields into more catching positions, and there's more of a chance for wickets to occur when you have an attacking field. Now, because all the fielders are in, if you get the ball through the fielders, there's more of a chance that the runs will be scored. So you can see here that if you get the attacking field come up, a 3 runs becomes a boundary 4, a 2 run becomes a 4, a boundary, and a 1 run becomes a 2. So any time the attacking field is called for, more runs can be scored from a 3, 2 or a 1. Now a H goes down 1 grade to an X if the field is called for under an attacking field. And if you've played a little bit, you'll know that an X can bring up more chances for dismissal. So you're going to get more dismissals, yes, but you're going to give away more runs. So it's a balancing act, how you want to approach that as the fielding captain. On the other side of things, your bowlers might be getting hit all around the park. And instead of taking wickets, you just want to stem the flow of runs. You've already given up, obviously, a lot of runs, and you just want to slow it down so that when you come to bat, you're not so far behind. You can see here that the grades become better. Instead of going down, like over here, a H becomes an X, but a H goes up to a G, A, B, C being the better batting grades. So the higher the batting grade is to an A, the better. The lower it is to an X or a Z, the worse it is. So you can see from a defensive field, it's going to be better for a batter in terms of getting out. So the batting grade that appears on the card, and I'll get Joe Root out again, will change. So for instance, let's see what we got here. We got down here, we got a H from Joe Root. If the defensive card was in use and it came up to sort of say that, yes, we need to factor in that defensive card, well then that H for Joe Root will become a G, which is a little bit better. So these grades here that can possibly come an out, if you've got negative modifiers from the bowlers or you've got an attacking field in play, will become less likely to be out. So a defensive field, you're less likely to get outs or wickets, but you're stemming the tide of the runs. So on the attacking field, you had more runs scored against you. On the defensive field, there's more fielders out, so they'll protect the boundaries. So a 4 becomes a 2, a 3 becomes a single, and a 2 becomes a single. So you can see the more defensive you are, the more runs will be saved, but the less chance you have to take a wicket. The more attacking you are with your field placing, the more chances for your bowlers to take a wicket, but the more runs are going to be scored by the batsman. So it's a balancing act. So let's get some dice out, and obviously we have 5 dice here. We have our bowler's dice, which are the red dice, and we have our batsman dice, which are the green dice. And then we also have our 5th dice, which is the white dice. Now when it comes to the field settings, we have to select what type of field we have. We can say we have a normal field, which is great, or we can say that we want to have a defensive field or an attacking field. But it's not just 3 fields that we have there. So we actually have 9 different fields that we can choose from. And I'll just get out the fielding display from the game parts itself. I just got to find it. So here we are with the fielding display. So I'll just quickly move these across. You see here it's got the field placement. So you put the card, if you're using it, whichever one you're using there. So we have that there. If you're using this, of course, otherwise just have it next to it. But down the bottom you see the fielding display. So say for instance we had this little marker on the fielding display. If you've got a normal field, 0, you don't need to have this here. You just turn that over, because none of those things will happen. You'll just get the results strictly from the 2 player cards, and they won't be adjusted depending on the field because you have a normal field. But if you choose one of these fielding of defensive or attacking cards, you then have to choose how attacking or how defensive the field is. So if you want to be slightly attacking, you would choose attacking field 1. A little bit more attacking, attacking field 2. Okay, we're getting quite attacking now, attacking field 3. And attacking field 4 is extremely attacking. On the other side of things, you want to cut down the runs a little bit, but you don't want to take away all the chance of you taking a wicket, so defensive 1. You want to stem the flow of runs a little bit more, defensive field 2. Defensive field 3 again, even more defensive. And defensive 4, most players are out on the fence, and it's going to cut down the chances you have to take wickets. So if you don't need to take wickets, you just need to stem the flow of runs, then obviously an attacking field 4. When I first started to play Test cricket with these rules, I used to have attacking field 4s a lot and attacking field 3s. Now generally I would start a Test match, the opening bowlers with the new ball, with generally an attacking field 3, get back to a 2 and a 1 later on in the day, and then 0. I very rarely use defensive fields, although I probably should use them a little bit more. Now, how do we bring these cards into play then? If we say we put down attacking field 2 here, how do we know when we've got to use these attacking field results here? Okay, so say for instance, we have Joe Root and Nathan Lyon, and we've got an attacking field 2. Now, we obviously roll all 5 dice. Now, again, we have the batsman's dice, we have the bowler's dice. But in this case, when we're looking at the fielding part of it, the white dice does not count at all. So, yes, you're going to roll it because you might have a new ball card, etc. You might have pitch conditions that come up, but we don't need to worry about that when it comes to this fielding setting. So let's focus in on the bowler's dice and the batter's dice. And the simple rule is 2 of these dice out of the 4 dice need to be the same, and they need to be 2 or under. So 2 or 1, and then this card will come into play. So for instance, we have a 2 over here, and we have a 2 over here. So we have the bowler's dice as a 6, so it's a good length delivery over here for Nathan Lyons. But we see that the field comes into play. Now normally we would have a good length delivery versus an 8, which is a D. But because we have a field into play, we still have the good length delivery. But because we got a 2 here, we need to take into account this card. So now that we know that this card has come into account, we maintain our good length delivery over here, but we re-roll the dice for the batter. And it's an 8 again, so it's exactly the same. Now, a D would happen, a good length D is obviously no runs anyway, unless you're really hitting out. But say, for instance, we roll, let's get something that is, so we roll a short ball. Nathan Lyon bowls a short ball, okay? And then we roll over here and we got a 2 here and we got so that was a 2. So in this case we have more than, we got 2 2s at least. We got 3 actually, but we got 2 2s at least, right? So we know that the fielding setting 2 is going to come into play. So we still have our short ball. Re-rolled again. That's an F. Now, an F is probably going to be like a single, depending on what batting mode, obviously. So a short ball F is probably going to generally be 1 run. But because the fielding 2 has come into play, we then have to go and take the result from this card. So instead of a single, because the fielder's in, it has got through and they're able to get 2 runs. So instead of 1, it becomes a 2. Joe Root maintains a strike. Okay, if this was, for instance, a short ball and this was a 1 there, and let's see what we can find. Say this is a 4. So that's a short ball for 3 for Lyon. And it's going to be a C generally, isn't it? But we have 2 numbers here that are the same, and they're equal or under the fielding setting that you're using. So we need to take the field placement into consideration here. So again, we re-roll these dice. That's a 5, and we've got a C. Now a short ball C, it might be 3 runs possibly. So if it was a 3 runs, generally for Joe Root, usually a fielder will be around to stop that boundary. But because everyone is in, that 3 runs goes all the way to the boundary for a 4. So they weren't able to get there in time. So there's more runs taken care of. Okay, let's try some other things here. If I was to roll, I've got to find the right one here. So say for instance, I roll a 2. It's going to be difficult actually with Joe Root's card. I might get someone who is a little bit less likely. Jason Holder is here. Oh, sorry, that's Elzari Joseph. Okay, so say we had an attacking field of 4, which means that 2 of these dice have to be the same. Either the same 4, the same 3, the same 2, the same 1. Okay, so it's going to come up a lot more. It's a lot more chance of the fielding card coming into play because you're being very attacking. And that means that you're going to score a lot more runs, but more chance of a wicket as well. So if we were to roll this and the bowler bowled, say it was a 4, and a 2. So it's a good length ball bowled by Nathan Lyon. And then over here we've got a 6 and we've got a 4. So we've got a 10 generally. So if it was a normal field placing, it'd be a good length ball and grade of H. That would be no run at all. Okay, but because we have the field in play, we have our 4 and our 4, which is the same number. and it's equal or underneath the field selection that we have, our fielding card is in play. So we have, again, our good length ball, but we have to re-roll this. Now say we re-rolled this and this came up as, let's see, there's a 5 and a 5. Say it came up as a 10. We can see the 10 here for the selection against the good length ball is a H. Now H on the attacking field card says a H becomes an X. And if you look at an X on most situations of a, well, definitely on a good length ball, there's a chance that there's going to be a dismissal there. So I might just get the actual boards out. So on a defensive field, I'll move these dice, we can see a good length ball here is a H. And the result of the delivery is beaten outside off stump for no runs. Okay, so a very good ball, but it's beat the batsman. He hasn't got an edge. He survives, just doesn't get any runs. But if the attacking field card comes into play, a H becomes an X. So a H goes down to an X, and we can see on an X, 1 to 2 is an appeal, and that should say 3 to 6 is beaten. So then on the, you roll the third dice, and you try and get a result. Now, if that came up, say 1 to 2 there, we'd be off to the appeal chart. There's a possibility of a wicket. So because of the attacking field, the chance of a wicket goes up more. Now, that is a defensive. But what if we go up to, say, normal? That H has a 1 to 3 chance of being an appeal. So it's gone up another dice roll. So it's gone up, say, it's another 16%, hasn't it? What if we go across to, well, this is a hitting out. That H, which was an appeal chart, now becomes an out chart. What if we were looking for runs? That H, which is attempted cut, which misses, is now an appeal chart. So you can see the more attacking the field is, the more chance there is for an out. The more attacking the batsman is in his approach, and the more attacking the field is, the more chance there is for an out. But the more attacking the batsman is, and the fielding team is with their field setting, the more likely runs are going to be scored very, very quickly. It's exactly the same for the defensive setting, but the other way around. So you'll have less likelihood to take a wicket, but less runs will be scored. So you'll protect the score, you just won't be able to take the wickets. So hopefully that's a little bit clearer. It will take a little bit of time to get used to when you first play. When you first play a test match, definitely just choose, or I would recommend to choose a normal field setting. Don't worry about these. As you get a few test matches in, start to maybe choose a few field settings. Maybe choose like 1s and 2s so that it doesn't come up as much. At the start of an innings when you're bowling with a new ball, choose some attacking settings. If you're getting pumped and you like, they're 3 for 400 or something like that, you may want to choose to have some defensive settings as well. So do it as you wish. You don't have to do it. It's kind of optional because a normal doesn't bring in the fielding setting cards at all.